Recording in progress. I'm going to
Buenos
imagine.
dias, Miguel. Miguel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, bro. How are you?
I am doing much better now that I'm awake, and I've got everything connected well.
Are we connected? Okay. So I've had people mention to me that I should wear glasses when I do these things. What's your thought on that? Oh, what's your view on that? Yeah. The sunglasses, though, I'm talking, the sunglasses.
I mean, your whole brand is the Blind Economist. You
Yeah.
don't look crazy. You look, I mean, you spent 60, 50 years having normal eyesight. So you actually when you communicate, speak to the people almost to their face, and
Oh,
when I don't mention to folks that you're blind,
right.
they see that there's something a little not like normal, but it makes sense once they hear.
But we're talking about my vision or something else. Oh no.
No,
Okay.
just your communication style. You speak to them
Oh,
like face to face, as if
right.
you're speaking to them. You even in
Right.
certain positions have your eyes even look at them, and
Oh,
if they're not aware of what's going on, it just makes sense. So on video, it doesn't bother anybody, and I think if anything, it actually adds to the brand personally. So I would embrace it and and
run with
go
it.
with it, man. I mean,
So that means they got to
sunglasses
be
or
really
glasses for that matter is just trying to cover it up, is in my opinion.
right. Well, in that case, if I'm going to get sunglasses, they better be really cool sunglasses, something that George Clooney would wear. So.
Yeah, some Persols.
Well, yeah. See, you're more cool than I am. I don't even know what that is. It sounds like a pair of socks to me. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a great Italian brand, man.
Oh, really? Persons. I'll have to check it out. They're probably, way beyond my budget. But if they're more than the price of two large pizzas with double jalapenos, I don't know.
Let's just say that you're not going to pick them up at Walgreens.
You actually can pick them up at Walmart. You said you cannot.
You
Yeah.
cannot, no.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then, yeah, it's getting dicey already. But yeah, I'm gonna get myself some sunglasses, and I am gonna go to Fashion Show Mall and see what I can find.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, good for you, man. If anything, I think based on your recommendation, we need to buy these before the recession. So
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember the recession? Jerome Powell's having a staring contest with the recession,
right.
and the recession doesn't blink; it just puts on more expensive sunglasses.
Well, welcome, sir. We've got some new numbers coming in from all different avenues, the economy,
Mm,
in real estate.
right.
The last couple of months on the real estate side have seen us bottom out nationwide,
Hmm.
and seen a price increase simply because our inventory has been pretty low, and that trend is
Hmm.
continuing through the summer months, as that's always been the typical cycle of activity.
Hmm.
And we're next in our next episode, I'll have some hard numbers of what's happening locally, and how we're doing in Las Vegas compared to last year, and just watching that cycle trend. And that takes us to the economy and its influence is what's going to happen over the next couple of months.
Hmm.
Miguel, what's in store for us this week?
Well, on the economy, we have to remember that right now we're dealing with inflation, right? And so the Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, they have continuously and aggressively hiked the interest rates in an effort to slow down the economy. And so in order for inflation to come down and for the economy to be a little bit more balanced and easier for all of us to deal with, we need this economy not to be so red hot. So when we look at the numbers of what's happening this week, that'll help us determine whether or not the Federal Reserve's strategy is working, right? And the first number that comes to mind that came out Monday was manufacturing. And manufacturing is consistent. It's not dropping an ounce.
Hmm.
And that's kind of important to take into note, because manufacturing is not dropping an ounce. And that's because factory orders, which are coming out, when are factory orders coming out? Is that today? Or I mean, Wednesday. Factory orders are coming out tomorrow, and they're also consistent. What that means is that retailers are still placing their orders, and the orders are staying strong. And so manufacturing is staying strong to keep up with the factory orders. So there's no slowdown. The strategy of the Federal Reserve of tightening the credit and by raising the interest rates so far isn't having the impact on a larger scale that they would hope. What that means to all of us is this economy is red hot, and interest rates are gonna keep climbing, and inflation is coming down, but it's coming down ever so slowly.
Like a snail.
We're, yeah, you know those little slugs that if you put salt on them, they disappear. They move at about that speed. Yeah, and unfortunately, Jerome Powell's been trying to pour salt on the little slug of inflation. It's not going away.
He's got that layer that just protects him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a super slug. Yeah, yeah. So that's one number. Oh, another number that came out, which is remarkable number, is new construction spending, and this is a whole dynamic that inflation is all about, because housing, where we live, if we want to live indoors, housing is a huge portion of the inflation numbers. It counts as 1/3 of what's taken into consideration by the Federal Reserve when they're calculating inflation. So if real estate is expensive, that has a dramatic, pressure on inflation. And I know that all your listeners know about it, because typically speaking, most of your listeners are paying more for their housing than they would like to. You should be paying 28% of your gross monthly income towards your housing, whether that be your mortgage or rent. I bet if you sat down and did the numbers, it's more than that. But anyway, back to new construction spending. It was 0.4 month over month. It was expected to come down to 0.3 month over month. Well, the number came in at 0.9 month over month. What that means is if you annualize that, what's 9? That's 10.08 increase of construction spending annualized. Or no, 10.8. It's 10.8 increase annualized for new construction. So new construction spending annualized is up by 10%.
So
that's huge.
It is huge, and that's a huge difference than the expectation. But a couple of things as to why that might be, why that number came in so strong. I can tell you that cost of wood has met what our pre-pandemic prices were. So the cost to buy things is basically what it was before we went into the pandemic, and then it spiked up to $1,300 per yard foot. That's a good sign in the sense that developers are wanting to actually increase their scale, which in the real estate side, I know it doesn't affect the economy in a positive way, but on the real estate side, we need inventory, and construction has been lacking and dragging for many different reasons. And so that, I feel like that would be a good positive sign in the sense of helping our inventory options, which theoretically, if that scales out in the next couple of years to maybe a softening or a flatlining of our and a slower pace of our pricing in the real estate side.
Right, and that's true. That what's causing that new construction to rise, and keep in mind, the reason all of this matters to any of us is because this has an impact on inflation. This impacts all of our lives. Yeah. But anyway, the cost of new construction spending being, basically 10% increase is happening because new construction, as you know, Jared, there's no inventory in the market, right? There's a lack of inventory, I should say. The inventory numbers are very small, and sellers, they don't want to give up those, less than 4% interest rates that they're having. 92% of all sellers right now, all homeowners, have an interest rate of less than 6%, and the current rate is roughly 7. Is that right, Jared?
Yep, 7.
Pretty,
Yep.
yeah,
7.
7. So if somebody's has a 3% interest rate, they don't want to buy a new house at 7%. That's why the inventory is very tight. Well, new construction is filling the gap. Typically speaking, new construction is 12% of the inventory on the market. Right now, it's 33 to 34%. And so new construction is adding inventory to the market. That's a good thing, like you said. But here's the caveat, if you will. New construction, they don't make a whole lot of money on entry-level homes for first-time buyers.
Right.
And so the houses you see in new construction are not for first-time buyers. They're a little pricier than that. And so they're higher-end homes. And so that's driving the global cost of housing, the macro cost of housing, not global, but I'm talking about the overall macro cost of housing in the United States up.
Yeah.
Because because there's an incredible, you're a builder, right? You decide to be a builder, and you can build homes where you make a lot of money by selling those higher cost homes, or you can build a bunch of homes where your margins are very thin for entry level buyers. That's not a hard decision to make. So they're building those higher quality, higher cost homes so that they can make a little bit more margin, a little bit more profit. The
Yes.
overall impact is it increases inflation for the entire macro economy nationwide.
Yeah. And so this 0.9 increase for the rate is that's projected annualized. It may pull back towards the end of the year.
Well, 0.9 was month over month.
Right.
I'm just saying that if we maintained that pace of 0.9, we would have an annualized rate of 10%. So we're not year over year by 10. I'm glad you kind of cleared that up. We're not year over year by 10, but the pace of 0.9, 9 times 12 is 108, right? So that's 10.8. Right. So that's how I figure that. So if we maintained that pace of last month, 0.9, I was just mentioning that would be like having a 10.8% increase for the year.
Right.
Yeah.
Factory orders are also another issue that we're seeing here, right?
Well, as we mentioned before, manufacturing is holding steady, and the reason manufacturing is holding steady is factory orders are holding steady. What all of that means is that retailers feel good about the upcoming couple of quarters. They believe in the next 6 months they're going to need the same inventory in their retail, warehouses, because they don't see consumer spending, which is pretty remarkable. Consumer spending.
Most retailers are buying their third and fourth quarter orders for the holiday
Today.
season. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
and so their forecast is what we're seeing in the economy today. Still resilient, still super strong. It's going to carry through.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Which translates
Somebody said,
which translates to the economy side of it's not going to go away anytime soon, and the recession is going to happen most likely next year.
yes, I can't remember there was some economist that said it's not going to happen until the third quarter of next year. Yeah. Oh, that was me. Yeah. So
I was a little
yeah.
blindsided by that one. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. It's so anyway, I'm looking at Q3 of next year, right? So that's why we're looking at July Fed rate increase, September Fed rate increase, and it hasn't been announced anywhere except from you and me that November is going to be a Fed rate increase. So we're either going to look really good or really bad. We'll find out.
All the
No
indicators are
risk,
pointing
no
to that.
gain, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Look at this economy, and we haven't even talked about everything. Unemployment rates on Friday. That's the most exciting part of the whole week.
Initial jobless claims were previously 239,000, expected to go to what?
I don't know that they expect them to go down, right? And
Right.
and are you for real? You expect the jobless claims?
Yeah.
They expect them to go up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
246.
I don't know where they're getting those numbers. How is that going to happen? Because the market is just way too tight. We see these headline things where people are losing their jobs, right? Well, like in the technology market, we saw a lot of tech people lose their jobs. You know what? The average tech person that lost his job was making $212,000 a year. And so, yeah, they lost their job and they had to take a haircut. They had to find a job where they were only making a pittance 192,000. Wow, they had to really tighten their belt. That I don't know how they're making it. And so, can they get food stamps? I'm not sure. So they're getting reemployed. They're not sitting around looking for work. They're getting reemployed, but they've had to adjust to a lower income. Maybe from 217 to 192, something like that. So they're getting reemployed. Or you'll see other headline numbers where Ford laid off a lot of people. Yeah, Ford laid off a lot of engineers that were making like 185,000. Those engineers found other engineering jobs. Again, they might have had to take a 10% cut in pay, but they're working. So you see these headline things where so and so laid off, 5,000 workers. Yeah, 5,000 highly paid workers. Who's not getting laid off are the lower tiers, the hospitality, the services industry. Those people are working. And those people have choices of jobs. Oh, as a matter of fact, that's one of the numbers that are coming out this week. Right now, there's 10.1 million jobs opened, and they expect that to come down to 10 million jobs. So you think, okay, that means fewer jobs on the market. The market's slowing down. That the economy's slowing down. Yeah, there's fewer jobs available. That makes it not so complicated for the only 5.4 million people who are looking.
So
That's
I'm
crazy.
hearing all of this, Michael, and I know you're going to clarify it for me, but it almost sounds like, because I'm reflecting back on 2008 and 9, where there was a significant increase in unemployment from just the regular Joe Schmo that's on the street like me.
Mhm.
If jobs are going to stay consistent for, let's say, those who are making under 100,000, and it's
Let's
right
say
now the ones that are being affected.
75,000. That's kind of
Say it
that.
again.
That's let's say 75,000. But yeah.
Fine. And then anybody who's making over that are the ones that are being adjusted at the moment, because these corporations are making adjustments in those, let's say, high priced
Mhm. Right.
employees, right?
Right.
and the economy is going to continue on pushing as strong as it's been and
Mhm.
expected to be,
Mhm.
with people not really like the masses not really losing as many jobs. Is it
Mhm.
possible that the recession and the adjustments could happen with folks, let's say, making under 75,000 not losing a job, or is it necessary that it impacts that?
Well, um, where the recession hits, boy, that's a tough one to call. It would be kind of nice if that happened, because typically speaking, in recessions, it is the lower tiers that get brutalized. Um, I wish I could say that, specifically. The problem with those making above 75,000 or 100,000, as you said, those persons are highly skilled, and they can make a lateral transfer to another job. They might have to take a little bit of a haircut, but they'll continue working. Walmart put out a report where they see more affluent shoppers. So a lot of the persons who used to shop at Sprouts maybe and spend a little bit more money are now adjusting, and they're buying their groceries at Walmart maybe, but uh, so it's hard for that economy to slow down in a meaningful way. That would lead into the theory of a soft landing if it happened the way you said, Jared.
Hmm.
That would be a good way to have a soft landing, because the more affluent workers, they account for 60% of spending in the economy. They're a big piece, even though they're a smaller population. Wealthy people are the ones who keep 60% of the economy running. If that were to happen, I hate those words escaping my lips, but that's a possibility for a less aggressive recession. I don't even want to use the word,
Michael,
SL. Yeah.
as your famous tagline, man, the world's a better place when you're wrong.
It is, yeah. It is a better place when I'm wrong, yeah. It would
So
be cool,
here's
though. Oh, go ahead.
when I went on Channel 8 a couple of years ago, and we had crossed our median price point over the $400,000 marker.
Right.
Something that I had mentioned on there was this is the new normal in Las
Right.
Vegas. It was
Right.
almost an unfathomable number to reach for a price of a home in Las Vegas for many, many years. But
Right.
I feel like this entire transition, not just the pandemic, but this whole like economic change over these last 5-7 years, has really kind of taken us to what I recall in the 80s and 90s. Like the price points of everything just went up, the cost of everything went up, everybody adjusted, and it keeps going up. And I feel like we're in this transition stage where we're stepping up, and everything is technically becoming more expensive, but it's just becoming a more normal environment that we're getting used to. And it just
How old were you in 1979?
4.
There you go. Yeah. So that sounded condescending. So
I'm
yeah.
all right with that, man.
Oh, okay, yeah. So when the population, as we learned in the 70s, gets used to inflation, that's all bad. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about it.
Right.
That's why the Fed, go ahead.
Is targeting to try and get it back to 2, right? But
Right.
what if the soft landing theory carries out and it takes let's say a couple of years, but everybody gets adjusted and they can get inflation down to 2? Is that a theory possible? Is that possible theory?
Yeah. I would give that. I would give that scenario probably about a 20% probability. Yeah, that's 1 in 5. Yeah, remember last time? Hold up your fingers and
Yeah.
yeah. So so
Magic
1 in
number.
5. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's a 1 in 5 chance that it could happen that way, and that would be preferable, really, because more affluent people have more resources to adjust to difficulties.
Sure.
When somebody is working at Costco as somebody who stocks shelves and they lose their job, they have fewer options. But if you're an engineer at General Motors and you lose your job, man, you got a lot of options. You can do other things. You could be an engineer in hospitality. You could be an engineer on a cruise liner.
The flip side to that equation is that if home prices, cost of living, and all these other factors stay elevated and we become accustomed to it as a society, anybody who's making less than 75,000, it's like living in San Francisco or Orange County. Like 75,000 is poverty level,
Correct. That would be
for Las
problematic.
Vegas culture, that's kind of rough, man. It's kind of rough.
Yeah, Las Vegas, it would be tough for Las Vegas, but in a larger macro look nationally, that would be not cool. And because you would be widening the chasm between the haves and have-nots. If we adjust to inflation, let's say we get used to, we go, well, 4% inflation, that's not a big deal, or 3.5% inflation, no big deal, right? And keep in mind, right now, core inflation is 4.2, core CPI is 4.2. But let's say, core CPI 3.5, that's okay. That's okay if you're making $75,000, $100,000 a year. That's not okay if you're stocking shelves at Walmart or Costco. That's not okay if you're delivering for Amazon. That's not good. And so that widens the gap between the haves and have-nots. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want to see any functioning economy do.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a bunch of people that make lots of money and a bunch of people who are dirt poor, i.e. Dubai. The average income in Dubai is $120,000, but that's not the reality on the ground. If you live in Dubai, chances are you're sharing your dwelling with 3 or more households just because you have to, because of the costs. Because you're not one of those people making $200,000 in Dubai.
Yeah.
So we don't want an economy that looks like that.
Yeah. That would certainly put strain and stress on the majority of the population.
Yeah, it sure would. It sure would. And it would also make it harder for people to move from entry level positions to, uh, senior level positions in terms of income.
Yeah.
If you start a job at, let's say you're straight out of school, you start a job at $60,000 a year. Good for you. But if the chasm is so great, then it might be impossible for you to get to the $100,000 tier, because the gap. Well, even starting a job at 60K is tough. Um, it makes it harder for people entering the workspace at the lower wage levels to ever make a livable wage when the chasm is so large. I hope I'm not over explaining it, but
No,
that
that makes a
that
lot
just
of sense. Yeah, and
yeah, it
I remember
concerns
being
me,
at
frankly.
that point early in my career. It was starting at this was back in the 90s. I was no
But
college
didn't your dad
education,
give
went
you
like
$100
25.
million to get started? Is that how that's worked? Or
Say that again.
didn't your dad give you $100 million got you started?
Dad, Daddy, Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah. I thought you were
Yeah,
born rich. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's a couple zeros missing on that one, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My dad
Like
gave me a
about six
good.
of them.
He gave me a good education in understanding what I needed to do. In fact, he invited me to work one day. I was 18 years old. I remember this pretty clearly. Fresh out of 18 years old, he's like, "Yeah, come and work with me," because he had his own. He still has his own business. And first day, he asked me to pick up 45-pound bag of cement mix. He's like, "Yeah, take it to the second floor on this spiral staircase going up to the second floor." It was 10
Yeah.
bags and I needed to go. And then at the end of that day, I said, you know what? I am not doing hard labor. I'm going to do something a little more creative.
So your dad did give you some
He
of
gave me
great
some hard,
value.
solid advice.
Uh,
Yes.
Great value. Yeah, that sounds like it was worth $100 million. Good. Yeah.
It absolutely
Yeah.
has. And it has translated into that in time for sure. But
Yeah.
well, Mike, Miguel, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else before we wrap this up?
Well, two things. Number one, congratulations on the Five Diamond Group meeting their 2023 goals in the first 6 months of the year. You're to be congratulated. That's fascinating to me because a lot of real estate offices are struggling right now due to the lack of transactions. So apparently, you're doing something different. And number two, watch for the unemployment numbers on Friday.
Yes.
Projected to come in at 3.6. Keep in mind, my theory. Can I tell my theory?
Right.
Yeah, the employment market is extremely tight now. Right now, last report was 3.7. It's expected by the market to come in at 3.6. Why is that darn unemployment market, that labor market, so tight? Two reasons. Two reasons. Number one, we've mentioned before the tight policies for immigration prevent certain persons from coming into the country to work. And I'm not just talking about hospitality, caretakers, things like that. I'm also talking about IT techs, doctors, nurses. These people often immigrate into the country and fill those jobs. That has been cut back dramatically because of recent immigration policy. So we've lost that entire population from the workforce. But here's a second one. Here's a second one, and that is the second largest demographic in the United States are baby boomers, and the youngest of the baby boomers right now are 59 years old. They're exiting the workspace. They're all retiring out. People start retiring at the age of 54. So there are some baby boomers left in the economy, but they're exiting out. They're all retiring. So with the loss of the baby boomers, the tight immigration policies, and go ahead and throw on top of that, a lot of people retired early during the pandemic. Yeah, there's a very tight labor market. That's why we expect unemployment numbers to come in at 3.6 on Friday. Translation, if there's a lot of people working and unemployment is at historically low levels at 3.6, inflation's going to be tough to beat. And so the Federal Reserve is going to continue to hike those rates.
You heard it here first on the
Uh,
Real Estate in the Economy this week with Miguel Francis, the Blind Economist, and me, Jared Uraine, with the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group at Vice Realty. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
I had a good time, bro.
And actually, I should say thank you for letting me join you, man, because this is great info, man. I think it's a positive effort to help people understand what's going on in the marketplace today. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, man, that does it for this episode. If you like this content, please be sure to share it with someone that would take an interest as well as value from the information. Please feel free to make sure that you subscribe, set the reminders, and join us all on the social outlets. You can reach Miguel Francis at The Blind Economist on YouTube, as well as on LinkedIn, Miguel A. Francis, Michael A. Francis, right?
Michael Anthony Francis, The Blind Economist. Yeah. Just search for The Blind Economist. I'll show up.
That's right. Type it in Google and you will find him at the top of the page. Thanks to the good work of Aaron.
Aaron Cunningham. Yeah.
And that does it for this week's episode. We look forward to seeing you all next week. Mike, see you in studio next week, man. Enjoy your day.
Take care, bro.